What if I told you that some cruiser motorcycles pack enough raw power to turn a relaxing Sunday ride into a white-knuckle survival test? You know, cruisers. Those laid-back highway machines built for comfort, not speed. Well, someone forgot to tell these 10 monsters about that memo. Today we're counting down the 10 deadliest cruiser motorcycles ever built. Bikes that look like they belong at a biker rally but accelerate like they're late for a drag race. These aren't your typical Harleys, these are cruise missiles disguised as cruisers. So buckle up, or rather hold on tight. And hey, if this saves you from a hospital visit, maybe hit that subscribe button. Number 10. Triumph Rocket 3. The Triumph Rocket 3 doesn't just break the rules of cruiser design, it obliterates them. This British beast packs a 2,458cc triple-cylinder engine. That's not a typo, 2.458 liters. It's literally the largest production motorcycle engine ever made, and Triumph didn't stop there. They tuned this monster to produce 167 horsepower and a mind-bending 163 pound-feet of torque. That's more twist than most muscle cars. Here's where things get dangerous. All that torque arrives at just 4,000 RPM. We're talking instant, violent acceleration that can lift the front wheel without warning. The thing weighs 649 pounds wet. That's a lot of mass to control when things go sideways, and they will go sideways. The Rocket 3 has this nasty habit of overwhelming its rear tire under hard acceleration. Even experienced riders report unexpected wheel spin in third gear. The bike's sheer size creates its own problems. That massive engine sits low and wide, limiting lean angle to just 31 degrees. Push it harder and you're grinding hard parts on asphalt. Not ideal when you're carrying this much momentum. The 2022 version actually made things worse. Or better, depending on your death wish. Triumph increased the torque to 170 pound-feet. They also shortened the wheelbase for better handling. Translation, it's now even more willing to loop itself. What really makes this bike deadly is the deceptive comfort. The riding position is relaxed, the seat is plush, everything about it says cruise, until you twist that throttle. Then it transforms into something else entirely, something that demands absolute respect. Several riders have reported losing the rear end simply downshifting too aggressively. The engine braking alone can break traction. One owner described it perfectly. It's like riding a cruise missile with handlebars. The Rocket 3 has sent more than its share of overconfident riders to the emergency room, usually with the same story. I just gave it a little gas. Number 9. Harley-Davidson FXDR 114. Harley-Davidson built the FXDR 114 to prove they could make a performance cruiser. They succeeded, maybe too well. This isn't your grandfather's Harley, it's a 667 pound drag strip weapon disguised as a street bike. The Milwaukee 8 114 engine cranks out 119 pound-feet of torque. But here's the thing, it's not just the power, it's how this bike delivers it. The FXDR uses a 240 section rear tire that's super bike wide. You'd think that would help with traction. You'd be wrong. That massive tire actually makes the bike harder to control. It wants to track every groove in the pavement. It resists turning, and when it does finally break loose, which happens more often than you'd think, it snaps sideways violently. No warning, just instant chaos. Harley gave this thing clip-on handlebars and rear-set foot pegs. Sounds sporty, right? It is. Until you realize you're leaning forward on a bike that weighs 303 kilograms, your wrists take a beating, your back screams. And when you're uncomfortable, you make mistakes. Mistakes on the FXDR hurt. The lean angle clearance is a joke. 27.2 degrees on the right, 32.8 on the left. Yes, it's actually different on each side. Push it any harder and you're showering sparks. Several riders have reported grinding so hard they actually lifted the rear wheel mid-corner. That's not supposed to happen. The real killer is the combination of massive torque and limited suspension travel. Hit the throttle mid-corner and the rear squats, changes the geometry, and suddenly you're heading for the guardrail. The traction control helps, when it works. But it's calibrated for drag racing, not corner exits. Multiple FXDR crashes involve the same scenario. Rider leans into a corner, grinds hard parts, panics, grabs throttle, physics takes over. One insurance adjuster called it the most crashed new Harley in 20 years. The FXDR proves that sometimes trying too hard to be something you're not can be deadly. Number 8. Honda Valkyrie Rune. Honda spent $25 million developing the Valkyrie Rune. They only made 1,500 of them. There's a reason for both those numbers. This bike was Honda's attempt to out-Harley. They failed spectacularly. What they created instead was a 900-pound monster that handles like a battleship and accelerates like a sport bike. The 1,832cc flat-six engine pumps out 118 horsepower. Doesn't sound like much, until you realize it's delivered through a shaft drive to a 240-section rear tire. The Rune weighs 878 pounds with a full tank. That's not a motorcycle, that's a small car. But here's the twisted part. It actually goes pretty quick. 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. The problem is stopping, or turning, or basically doing anything other than going straight. The wheelbase stretches 68.9 inches. That's longer than some cars. Try making a U-turn on that. Actually don't, you'll drop it. Everyone drops it. The riding position is pure American cruiser. Feet forward, arms stretched out, spine vertical. Perfect for cruising. Terrible for controlling 900 pounds of momentum when things go wrong. And they go wrong. The Rune's weight distribution is all over the place. The massive radiator sits up front. The huge engine sits low. The shaft drive adds weight to the rear. It's like 3 different bikes fighting for control. One owner described an emergency stop. I grabbed the brakes and the front dove so hard I thought I was going over the bars. Then the rear came around. I honestly don't know how I stayed upright. The Rune killed itself with its own ambition. It was too heavy for sport riding, too radical for traditional cruiser buyers, too expensive for anyone else. But for those brave or foolish enough to ride one hard, it offers a unique experience. The experience of wrestling a Honda-engineered bulldozer that occasionally wants to kill you. The fact that clean examples now sell for $30,000 proves one thing. Surviving ownership is an achievement worth paying for. Number 7. Kawasaki Vulcan. 2000 Kawasaki looked at the cruiser market and asked one question. What if we just made everything bigger? The answer was the Vulcan 2000. 2053 cc's of V-twin Fury. It's not just big. It's grotesquely, magnificently, dangerously huge. This engine produces 141 pound-feet of torque. At just 2,800 RPM, that's basically idle. Touch to the throttle and the bike surges forward like it's been shot from a cannon. The Vulcan 2000 weighs 750 pounds dry. Add fluids and you're pushing 850 pounds. That's a lot of bike to manage when that torque hits, and it hits hard. The power delivery is brutal. There's no smooth progression. It's either off or on. And when it's on, you better be ready. The shaft drive makes things worse, or better if you enjoy wheelies. Crack the throttle and the rear end squats, the front goes light, and suddenly you're looking at sky. Here's what makes this bike truly dangerous. It looks slow. The chrome, the tassels, the wide beach bars. Everything screams old man bike. Then you twist the throttle and realize you're on something that runs 11-second quarter miles. Stock. Riders get caught off guard constantly. They think they're on a Harley. They're not. They're on a Japanese muscle bike that happens to look like a Harley. One magazine tester actually looped it at 40 miles per hour. In second gear, he just grabbed too much throttle and over she went. The brakes are the real horror show. Kawasaki gave this 850-pound monster a single front disc. One, that's it. Sure, it's a big disc, 320 millimeters, but it's still just one disc trying to stop nearly half a ton of speeding metal. Panic stops turn into prayers. The rear brake is basically decorative. Touch it too hard and the wheel locks instantly. The Vulcan 2000 is proof that sometimes bigger isn't better. It's just more dangerous. But Kawasaki kept building it for 6 years, because apparently some people enjoy riding on the edge of disaster. Number 6. Yamaha VMAX 1700. Yamaha didn't build the VMAX 1700 to be a cruiser. They built it to be a missile. It just happens to have cruiser styling. This thing will hit 60 miles per hour in 2.6 seconds, 2.6. That's superbike fast. But superbikes have fairings. Wind protection, the VMAX has nothing. Just you, holding on for dear life while 200 horsepower tries to rip you off the seat. The engine is a work of art, 1,679 cc's of V4 madness. It makes 200 horses at 9,000 RPM. But the torque is what kills you. 123 pound-feet at 6,500 RPM. It comes on like a sledgehammer. No warning, no buildup, just instant, violent acceleration. The VMAX doesn't accelerate. It teleports. 1 second you're at 30, next second you're at 90, and your eyeballs are trying to escape your skull. The chassis can't handle the power. Yamaha knew this. They didn't care. The frame flexes under hard acceleration. You can actually feel it twisting. The front wheel comes up in first, second, and third gear, sometimes fourth if you're brave enough or stupid enough. The wheelbase is only 67 inches. That's short for a bike this powerful. It makes the VMAX twitchy at speed. One tiny input and you're in the next lane or the ditch. What really makes this bike deadly is the lack of rider aids, no traction control. No wheelie control, no ABS on early models, just you versus 200 horsepower and Newton's laws. The VMAX has this party trick. If you pin the throttle in first gear, it'll flip over backwards from a standstill. Several riders have done this, usually in front of crowds. The embarrassment hurts almost as much as the road rash. One owner summed it up perfectly. The VMAX doesn't care if you live or die, it just wants to go fast. Yamaha finally killed it in 2020, probably saved some lives. Number 5, Victory Hammer. Victory wanted to build the ultimate American power cruiser. They succeeded, then they went out of business. Coincidence? Maybe not. The Hammer S was too much bike for most riders. 106 cubic inches of V-twin producing 97 pound-feet of torque, but it's not the engine that makes this bike deadly, it's that rear tire, 250 millimeters wide, the widest ever fitted to a production cruiser at the time. That massive tire looks incredible. It also ruins everything. Turn-in is glacially slow. You have to physically wrestle the bars to get this thing to change direction. Mid-corner corrections, forget it. Once you commit to a line, you're stuck with it. The tire wants to stay upright, always. Lean angle is pathetic, 29 degrees and you're grinding, hard. The floorboards fold up, but they don't fold enough. Push harder and you're gouging grooves in the asphalt. Victory gave the Hammer S inverted forks and dual front brakes. Sounds good on paper. In reality, it created a bike with sporting pretensions and cruiser limitations. Riders would attack corners like they're on a sport tourer. Then they'd grind hard parts, panic, grab brake, and low side. It happened constantly. Victory forums were full of crash stories, same scenario every time. I leaned in and heard grinding, so The Hammer S weighs 686 pounds. That's manageable. Until you factor in that ridiculous rear tire, it makes the bike feel heavier than it is. Slow speed maneuvers become adventures. Parking lot U-turns are impossible. One owner reported dropping it 3 times in his own driveway, the same driveway. Victory thought they were building the future of American motorcycles. Instead, they built a bike that proved wider isn't always better. The Hammer S was fast, beautiful, and deadly. Victory died in 2017. The Hammer's reputation probably didn't help. Number 4, Harley-Davidson V-Rod. Harley-Davidson purists hated the V-Rod. Too modern, too different, too fast, way too fast. The Revolution engine was co-developed with Porsche, 1,130 cc's of liquid-cooled dual overhead cam Fury, 115 horsepower at 8,500 RPM. This wasn't a Harley engine, this was a racing engine in cruiser clothes. And it caught riders completely off guard. Traditional Harleys make power down low, the V-Rod makes power up high. Really high, peak horsepower at 8,500 RPM on a Harley. Riders would short shift at 4,000 RPM, expecting that to be redline. They were leaving 50 horsepower on the table. Then they'd discover the truth and whiskey throttle straight into trouble. The power delivery is deceptive. Below 5,000 RPM, it's docile. Above that, it's a different animal. The engine note changes. The bike surges forward. Suddenly, you're doing triple digits and you don't remember how you got there. The chassis is the real problem. Harley built it long and low. 67.5-inch wheelbase, 26-degree rake, 5 inches of trail. These are drag bike numbers. The V-Rod goes straight beautifully. It's stable at speed. But ask it to turn, different story. The bike needs massive inputs to change direction. Once leaned over, ground clearance disappears. 28 degrees and you're sparking. The pegs don't fold, they just grind, and grind, and grind. The V-Rod's biggest issue? Identity crisis. Harley riders expected Harley performance. They got Porsche performance instead. Sport bike riders saw a cruiser. Cruiser riders saw something alien. Nobody knew how to ride it properly. The crash statistics were brutal. Insurance companies started refusing to cover them. One adjuster called it the most misunderstood motorcycle ever built. Harley killed the V-Rod in 2017. 13 years of confusing and occasionally terrifying riders was enough. The Revolution engine was brilliant, maybe too brilliant for its own good. Number 3, Suzuki Boulevard M109R. Suzuki looked at the cruiser market and decided subtlety was overrated. The Boulevard M109R is what happens when Japanese engineers decide to build the ultimate muscle cruiser. 1,783 cc's of V-twin insanity, 127 horsepower, 118 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. This isn't a motorcycle, it's a 2-wheel drag car. The engine is magnificent and terrifying. It's tuned for pure acceleration, no smooth power delivery here, just explosive thrust that arrives like a punch to the chest. First gear is basically unusable, crack the throttle, and the front wheel comes up, every time. Second gear isn't much better, third gear will still power wheelie if you're aggressive. The Boulevard doesn't accelerate, it launches like something from NASA. But here's the deadly part, it weighs 764 pounds. And that weight is distributed all wrong. The massive 240 section rear tire, the shaft drive, the enormous engine, it all sits low and rearward. Under hard acceleration, the front goes light, really light, dangerously light. The steering becomes vague, you're basically guessing where the front wheel is pointing. One owner described it, above 80, the front wheel is just a suggestion. The brakes are overwhelmed. Dual 310mm discs up front try their best. But they're fighting physics and losing. Panic stops from speed require planning and prayer. The rear brake is a joke, touch it at speed and the wheel locks instantly. The Boulevard M109R is fast enough to get you in trouble and too heavy to get you out. Suzuki still makes it. 15 years running, because apparently there's always demand for barely controlled chaos. Insurance companies hate this bike, they've seen the claims, they know what it does to overconfident riders. Number 2, Ducati Diavel V. Ducati built the Diavel V4 to prove Italians could make cruisers. They proved something else entirely. They proved a sport bike engine. In a cruiser chassis is a recipe for mayhem. The Gran Turismo V4 engine makes 168 horsepower. That's sport bike power, super bike power. But the Diavel isn't a sport bike. It's a power cruiser with identity issues and a death wish. The torquey curve is vicious. 126 Newton meters arrives at 7,500 RPM, but it's the delivery that kills you. V4 engines are smooth until they're not. Below 5,000 RPM, it's calm. Above that, it's violence. Pure Italian violence. The power hits like a switch, off, then very much on. The electronics help when they work, but electronics can't fix physics, and the physics are wrong. The Diavel weighs 487 pounds, that's light for a cruiser, too light for this much power. The wheelbase is 63 inches, that's sport bike short. The rake is 28 degrees, sport bike steep. But the 240 rear tire, pure cruiser. It's a contradiction on wheels. The bike doesn't know what it wants to be. Neither will you when it tries to kill you. The riding position is the real trap. You sit upright, feet forward, arms relaxed. It feels like a cruiser, until you hit the throttle. Then it transforms into something else, something angry. The Diavel V4 will power wheelie in 4th gear, 4th, at 70 miles per hour, with a passenger. This isn't normal. The traction control has multiple settings. None of them are, please don't kill me. Italian engineers have a different relationship with danger. One journalist called it magnificently terrifying, another just called it terrifying. The Diavel V4 is proof that just because you can put a sport bike engine in a cruiser doesn't mean you should. But Ducati did it anyway, because Italians. Number 1, Hoss BHC 3 LS3. This is it, the most insane production motorcycle ever built, the Hoss. BHC3 doesn't have a motorcycle engine, it has a car engine. A 6.2-liter Chevrolet LS3 V8, 445 horsepower, 445 pound-feet of torque. These aren't motorcycle numbers, these are Corvette numbers, because it's literally a Corvette engine in a motorcycle. Someone approved this. The statistics are absurd. The bike weighs 1,100 pounds, dry. Add fluids, and you're at 1,200 pounds. The wheelbase stretches 85 inches, that's 7 feet. The rear tire is 300 millimeters wide. None of this matters because 445 horsepower. The acceleration is violent. 0 to 60 happens in 3 seconds. In a 1,200-pound motorcycle, the front wheel doesn't just come up, it stays up for as long as you want in any gear, at any speed. But here's what makes it truly deadly. It has a 2-speed automatic transmission, automatic. You can't control the power delivery. The bike decides when to shift. You're just along for the ride, and what a ride. First gear tops out at 90 miles per hour, 90, in first. The engine barely notices the weight, it just pulls, and pulls, and pulls, until you run out of courage, or road, or luck. The handling is theoretical. It doesn't turn, it changes direction eventually, maybe. The brakes are from a car, because motorcycle brakes would laugh at stopping 1,200 pounds from 150 miles per hour. Yes, it'll do 150, easily. One owner described his first ride. I whispered the throttle and the rear tire turned to smoke. In second gear, at 50 miles per hour, I've owned it 3 years. I'm still scared of it. The Hoss BHC 3 shouldn't exist. It breaks every rule of motorcycle design. It's too heavy, too powerful, too everything. But it does exist, and people buy them. Because somewhere out there, someone decided regular motorcycles weren't dangerous enough. That person was wrong. Magnificently, gloriously, terrifyingly wrong. And there you have it, 10 cruiser motorcycles that took the concept of relaxed riding and laughed in its face. These aren't machines for Sunday rides to the coffee shop. They're barely contained chaos with license plates. Did we miss any two-wheeled monsters that tried to kill you? Drop your near-death experiences in the comments below. And if this list saved you from making a very expensive and painful mistake, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more videos about motorcycles that want you dead. Thanks for watching, and ride safe out there. Or at least safer than you would on any of these beasts.